Righty. So we had our mock challenge today, and that is the late show one. That is one of the actual code challenges, which clearly we will not be taking as an actual challenge. Um, but it is exactly what a challenge looks like because it is a challenge. So I don't know, drop a 1 to 5 in the chat. Let me know how like a 3 is passing, 5 means you did great, a 1 means you were completely lost. Just drop that in the chat and see where we are. Cool, 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 cool. Great. That's everyone that's here. Awesome. So yeah, fours, fives, threes, 2.5. Great. Cool, cool, cool. Um, so one, I guess, what part did you feel like you got hung up on?
I'm not exactly sure what part it was because to me it seems like the code is I feel like I'm just there's something that I'm missing.
Mhm,
So I think after going through it, I think I'll be fine.
mhm.
But I was able to I kept getting 500 errors instead of the 200. So it wasn't like one specific thing that was making me get hung up on. It was I
Mhm.
feel like there's something that I'm missing.
Yeah, yeah. So, and you weren't sending back any explicit 500 errors, right?
No, no, I wasn't.
Right. Cool. So, just to like review the HTTP status codes, 200s are like everything's okay one way or the other. Um, the no camera. The 300s are basically like okay, but something changed,
Mhm.
like it's a redirect or whatever. And then the fours and fives are errors, and the 400 errors are something went wrong on the client, so they asked for a resource that wasn't there, or they tried to do something that wasn't available, or they didn't have permission to do something. And that's most of I think that's all of the errors that we are going to be sending back explicitly. And I think that's from a server side programmer's perspective, that is the main difference is that 400 type errors are the errors that we're going to be sending back because we looked at the request that came in and said, there's something wrong with this. Either I can't find it in the database or you said something wrong. So I'm going to send a 400 back error, hopefully with enough information to let you know what you did wrong, client. 500 errors are something that happened wrong on the server side.
Mhm.
So we generally don't send those back on purpose. So when you see a 500 error, that tells you that something else went wrong in the server. And that's usually a cue to me to start looking at the output on the console and the terminal, if there's any logs, anything like that. If there's a database running, or if there's the client is running and that's throwing errors there, most likely that's going to be on in the app PY or models PY file. So if like the test says, oh, I was expecting a 204 and I got a 500, that means that there's an error in your code somewhere.
Mhm.
And usually if you look at the console logs, that should either tell you exactly where it is or give you a good idea of where it is. Um, and if it doesn't, you've probably seen me do this before. My strategy is like start commenting stuff out until it works again, or at least it doesn't throw an error again, and then uncomment stuff until I get that error, and then I know that's where it is. How to fix it is another question altogether. But does that line up with what you were seeing at all?
Yeah, yeah, that it makes sense.
Cool, cool. Is there anything you'd like to take a look at in that respect? See if we can track down what it was?
I would like to maybe after I would just like to go through the review and then maybe ask questions afterward if I'm not understanding something.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not going to walk through the review like I did for the other challenge. I went through before I sent it out to y'all. I did a test run myself just to make sure like all the tests and stuff were working. It took about 20-ish minutes, and that's me, knowing how to do it, hopefully. So it should take you a lot longer than that, but within 90 minutes, just make sure everything was good. And yeah, so I can share the code that I came up with. This may not match yours exactly, but we can at least walk through it and talk about what we get. I'm just going to share that code. There it is. Awesome. Cool. So what I'd like to do, I guess, is look at let's look at the README first, see if there's anything in there. If there's anything in the README that didn't make sense, or any of the code that looks completely foreign, holler and we'll take a look at it. There we go, make it look better. So this is our README. It's basically the same structure that we've been working on previously. We do all the setup stuff, and if you're running, hello, if you're running the just the tests, you don't even need to start up the server. You can do that to test it out via Postman or the front end or whatever. But I just ran ahead and ran the tests. But you can definitely run it through the server and poke it that way if you like, whichever way works better for you. So the models are our V shape there. Episodes have many guests through appearances. Guests have many episodes through appearances, and appearances belong to an episode and a guest. So we walk through our models. This is going to look really familiar. Episode model, I think this stuff was already set up. I just added the relationship. So I was just saying if we want to get the appearances for an episode, that's going to be a relationship looking at that model. And I put the cascade in here because I think it asks for that in one of the requirements. You can also, I think someone else was saying that they went ahead and did it manually. You can totally do that. This way it just feels easier to me, especially if it's a larger application. You would have to do that everywhere you were deleting, and I would rather have the database take care of that for me. So the back reference is our class, and we're going to have the same thing here in the appearances. And then the same thing here, we're going to say our episode ID and guest ID are foreign keys for the appropriate tables. Then we did some serialization here. So we took out this one here. We took out the serialization. We took out the appearances episodes for those. So when we look at the appearances from an episode, we don't see the episode in that list of appearances. Same thing with guests. When we get a list of appearances from a guest, we don't need to see that guest information in that either. And the same thing for appearance here. So when we get if we have an appearance and we ask for an episode or guests, we don't want to see the appearance that we're looking from there. And these are all subtractive rules here, and that none of that should be any surprise. And we have some. Oh, go ahead.
For the serialization rules, I was kind of hung up on that for a little bit, just because I wasn't sure like if it required like an S or not an S. Like so on line 40, on appearances guess, I did it with an S and without an S on guess, and my test still seemed to pass. And I don't know like how could I double check that like.
Interesting. So the way I would check that would be to make a request probably from Postman or from the browser. Say get a guest, with appearances, and see if it includes the guest there. Or actually, if it doesn't work, it'll give you that recursive error. So if you can get a response back from it at all, that means it's working. Does that get to what you're asking?
Yeah. So you gotta check with Postman, huh?
Yeah. Postman, or if it's a Git with the browser. And making sure that these are tuples, the comma. It's confusing, 100%. So you have to kind of look at the kind of walk through it. So okay, I have a guest. I want to get the appearances from the guest, and so I want to, in the appearances, because we're getting a list of appearances, in each appearance, I want to not show the guest for that appearance. So it's definitely not intuitive, but you can kind of walk through it because in appearance guests, there's not going to be more than one guest for an appearance. So we know that's going to be a singular, and same for episode. An appearance is only going to have one episode, so we just want to take out the episode for that appearance. And it's the other way around for appearances. Appearance is going to have an episode, and an episode is going to have appearances, and a guest is going to have appearances, because those are going to be lists of things. And I think it might feel kind of inside out, but it makes sense somehow.
Okay, yeah, no, because that's what I was sitting there for a second. I was like, I was like, is this even like I knew like it like I wasn't sure like okay like maybe it's going after like like what I said as the table name or like the variable. But I was like, okay, well, dot notation, like only one guess.
Yeah, and I think it is what am I trying to say? It's also a little bit misleading because in this, in the models, we're kind of combining database stuff and Python model stuff. So like setting, this is going to be a database column, this is going to be a database column, this is going to be a database column. So that's influencing the database. The database doesn't care about our serialized rules at all because that's part of the appearance class. The database doesn't know anything about it. So you can kind of, and knowing that, which takes a while, knowing that you know that these aren't table names. These are going to be properties on the JSON that's returned. So if that helps kind of think about like serialized rules, have nothing to do with the database. It's just about the model. Same with the validations. Validations don't care about the database at all. It's all about the model. The only thing that the database hits is that. And that's really only where you're going to be doing the table names, and that's always going to be plural like that. Does that clear it up a little bit?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Any other questions up to there? We have also the, hey, I'm backer kit. Where's my, there we go. We have our validations. And we only have one validation rule on here. We have the appearance, I don't want that. The appearance rating has to be between 1 and 5. And we're using the, what you call, decorator here. We're doing a decorator validating the rating, and we just make our function here that takes in all the stuff that it needs, raises an error if that's not the case, and that'll do that. Any question on the models side?
Yeah, I have one. Earlier in this phase, we were putting like the underscore repr, like, and it would return just like a string. I've noticed that you don't have it. I added it. What is it for, and do we not need it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that underscore repr function is what a class uses when you try to get the toString, or the string version of an instance. And that's still useful for debugging purposes or whatever else. And you could theoretically make a repr that gives back a JSON representation. That's a lot of extra manual work that I don't want to do. So in place of that, I mean, you can totally put it there for your own purposes. For the purpose of the API, that's where the toDict part is doing that work for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any class can still have a repr function, but the unless you want to do the extra work of making sure that it matches up with your JSON, just lean on toDict there.
Okay.
Awesome. Any other questions about model stuff?
I wanted to ask, what is that cascade, is that necessary to include?
Yeah, so let's go down here, I think. Here, yeah, so don't do that. So in our episodes, and this is really the only one you need to do, I prefer not to think about which one I need to do, so I just do it wherever I need it. So it's saying, and this is the part that I commented on in the channel. So it's saying when we delete an episode, any appearances that associate with that episode also need to be removed, because we don't want to have appearances hanging around that refer to an episode that doesn't exist. So we can, when we do our delete here, in episodes ID, when we do our delete here, we could totally say, get the list of appearances from the episode, go through that list and delete all of those, and then delete our episode. That feels like extra work to me, so I don't want to do it. And so that's where I'm going to do my cascade. And that's going to be so like technically this one on line 37 we don't need, but this one is going to do that delete for you. So basically it says when we delete an episode, it's going to cascade back to any appearance that includes this episode. And I also prefer to do it here because this is a small application, but there might be instances where I'm deleting in different places. So I might be deleting by ID, or I might on the thing itself delete it from a list that has these properties or whatever. And I don't want to have to do that extra work every time that I'm doing a delete method. So I put that work on the database because that's what it's there for. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. And worst case, just know that something that looks like that goes there. And you can just put it there and hope for the best. Awesome. What other questions do we have about models? Cool. Sweet. So that is our models. Go through all that. Yep, great. So back in our, so got all that taken care of. Then we go through, once we've got all the relationships hooked up, then we can upgrade the database and seed it. So that should have everything it needs there. Our validations, great. So we move on to our routes. I just got out of a meeting with the curriculum team, and they said they are removing the app route or app dot route. This way we're doing it here is the way that's going to be from now on. So that doesn't affect you all at all. And honestly, it doesn't affect anyone else. You can still do it either way. But the only way we're going to be teaching is this way. So that's less confusing, hopefully, for people in the future. Sorry about people in the present. So I'm going to be using that, or in fact, I did use that here. So I will talk through what we're doing here and ask questions as we go. So the two things that I always forget to do, especially working on the kind of skeleton, they give us all, basically all of this except for one thing. What do they not give us that is here?
API.
Yeah. So I wrote all my stuff. I'm like, nothing is working. It's bombing out. It says there's no API. You need to set up the API. So throw that in there, and then all of your stuff should start working. So first one is our get episodes and get guests are going to be pretty much the same. If there was a third route, I might look at refactoring, but there's not, so I'm just going to do it by hand. So these are both the same. This one here and this one here are, and that's why the code smell is, if I've got a couple functions that look exactly the same except for the name of a variable, that's a candidate for refactoring. Not going to worry about it now, but could definitely do that. Yeah. API first go off it. Cool. So for our get, we are going to get our list of episodes. We're going to do our query all here, and we are going to do a list comprehension. So for each episode in that list, and that's the episode model instance, we're just going to make a list that has the serialized version of that, so the JSON version of that episode. And we just want to say minus appearances here because that's what this asks for. We just want the date and the number. And then we just return it. I think as someone noted last time, like if it was just return episodes, that will probably also work. I see 2 hearts on the screen and a very important API first go off Git. I don't know what that is, but oh, I see an arrow that says Ashley King too. Yeah, I don't know how that's happening.
I apologize. I'm making notes, you guys. I'll make sure that I remember them.
That's all right. Oh, you're using the Fathom thing?
Fathom, and then another app thing too.
Got it.
That gets the code.
Cool. So we can probably just do a return episodes on this in addition to the, instead of the make response. I prefer to do it that way just so it's more explicit, but either way should work. And rule 1, if it works, it works. That's a good. And our guest is going to be exactly the same as that, except for guest. How would I refactor that? I would probably write a function that basically did all of this stuff. And then it would take as an argument, the class. So I'd say, oh, get all the things for the class. It might look like, class, CLS because class is a word, and then do something like return make response. Here's the list comprehension, for whatever in class.query now. And then in here, I would just say return, do the thing with this class. And I would do that down here. And then that way, if something changed, I could change it in one place. But for our purposes, it's definitely not worth doing that. So that's fine. Cool. And then we have our, I keep forgetting it's not on that screen. We have our getting a single episode. I don't think we have that for guest, right? Yeah. But if we did, it would look, again, identical. So we're going to be getting an episode by ID, and we want it in that format. And so, again, I'm using, for the get and the delete, these are exactly the same. And if there was, if we're doing that in guests or the appearances, it would also look exactly the same except for the class name. So also a possible candidate for refactoring. But we don't need to worry about that now. We just need to make it work. So we are getting the episode. I think I've settled on filter by. And that's just because I don't need to worry about what class it's in. I just say filter by ID first, and that way the lines are identical. So I'm just grabbing the first episode that matches that ID, should be the only one. And then if there is an episode, you can make a response and send it off. Otherwise, we're going to return the error that's asking to return with the quote unquote appropriate and 400, 404, anything in that area, unless the test is asking for a specific one. Give it that one. Otherwise, best guess. Any thoughts or questions about the gets? Feel like you got those down? Cool. So here's our delete, and here's where I like to do our cascade. And we are just doing the same thing as our get. We are taking the ID, we're getting that episode. If it's there, delete it and commit it and send it asks for an empty response with that error code. So that's what we do. Otherwise, exact same error. And again, if this wasn't an app where there were a dozen classes and a bunch of them had this same kind of thing, like these two functions are similar enough that if I had to write a dozen of them, I'd think about pulling out like this functionality, like pass this functionality in as a callback or something. But yeah, but for right now, this is what we get. And when we delete that, then it's going to cascade and we'll all be good. Questions there?
Yeah, so on the delete, this is a small thing, but I noticed so like here you on 46, and then also in like the camping one, when it says return an empty body, we just put some empty quotes. In the cosmic one, it required that it was an empty curly brackets.
Yeah.
Is that just like, is there a better one? Because like curly brackets are more JSON-y versus quotes are more not.
Really depends on what it asks for. I mean, so JSON, the only requirement is that it returns a single thing at the root level. So whether it's an object with curly brackets or a list or a string or a number, as long as it's just returning one thing, that's valid JSON. So it really comes down to what the requirements are. There's no better or worse way, I don't think.
Cool. Yeah, I think it was just how like the Cosmic One's test was written, because what it said, like it was just return an empty response body in both of them, or in all three of them. Just the test was picky.
Yeah. Also, in my talk with curriculum, they do have one person rewriting all of the code challenges, so they will all be more similar. This does not help you at all, but rest well knowing in the future that it will be. Cool. Any other questions about the deletes? Awesome. And then our last thing, I think, is our creating an appearance. So we're going to be taking in the rating episode ID and guest ID. We're going to create one, and then we're going to return the guest that we created. Otherwise, give it this validation errors, which again, picky, but that's fine. And yeah, this we make our class, write our function. This one I'm doing a try because we don't know if the commit is going to work or not. It might throw an error when we do that. So I'm going to grab it out of the JSON. I still like doing request JSON. You can do the convert it to JSON and pick the stuff out of that object. Either way, totally fine. And then add it and commit it. And if all that works and we don't get a value error, then we will make our response, send the appearance to dict, and 201 means we created a thing. Otherwise, copy paste that error from the README and put it in there, send it off with 400. And when I did this morning, I wrote all my stuff and only 2 tests passed because I forgot to do that. It took me a minute to remember that. So yeah, I for future me, I like putting things all together down at the bottom like that. It makes it easier to, at a glance, see what is available. Say like, oh, like I can look at the bottom and say, great, we've got these things available, as opposed to putting them in each one. The downside of that for me is that I will forget every single time and have to go back and put it there. So you can either do it this way, or you can put them after you make the classes. They both work. Just depends on which one works better for you. Cool. And that's it. That passes. Am I lying? Let's find out. Let me do Pippin. I think everything's installed and running. Let's do PyTest. Does it all work? Yeah, it all works. Cool. So that is what an actual Phase 4 code challenge looks like. Now's the time for questions about any of it.
I'm so glad. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm so glad that you mentioned those API at the end. Those are so important because you can fail the test, the API add restores.
Yep.
I was gonna add that on Discord, but I'm so brain combobulated today. So yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was like this, and then I was like, cool, PyTest, it's all done. What?
Yeah.
That's one. Oh no, what did I do wrong? I just didn't add those. So yeah. Um, if I were to write an app like this more often than every 15 weeks, once every 15 weeks, I would probably write a little macro that just did like class, whatever, resource, and then like have it stub out arrow key, pass or def get blah 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 whatever pass, and then afterwards say API add resource and so on, whatever, and then just like make a little keyboard shortcut to do that, and then just replace the class name so I wouldn't forget every time. But typing it every time gets it in your muscle memory. So there's arguments for both. But yeah, if I was I mean, that's what I did with when I was doing Node Express regularly. Like there's boilerplate, and there's no reason for a human to type that boilerplate every time. So use whatever computer method you have. I use a I use an expander called Expanso or Espanso, ESPANSO, and it lets you define arbitrary macros. So I can just do like date, and it'll automatically put in the date, or I can put in like email, and it won't do that because I didn't make that one. Twitter, I don't know. Nope, doesn't like that one either. I set them up. I don't remember what they are. I guess I don't use them often enough. But yeah, dirty secret. Will this work? We do it. Let me do it in the README. Here's the thing that boom, and it does. You can have it do random stuff, so it'll give you a slightly different one every time to make it feel more human. Surprise, not a human. So yeah, Espanso is the thing. Oops, that's not one. New tab, please. Nope. Okay. ESPANSO. That's the one. Highly recommend. It's super fun. There's a. I discovered there's a. So I use a note-taking knowledge management markdown system called Obsidian, and kind of like do a Zettelkasten thing. If you don't know what those are, not important. There's a YouTuber called Nicole Van something. I don't remember, but she does a lot of stuff with Obsidian, and that's where I found Espanso, and that's good stuff. If you want to go down a rabbit hole of quote unquote productivity, that's a good one to go down. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of rabbit holes, anything else in any of this that you'd like to check out?
I wanted to ask if we could maybe talk after class, because I don't want to take up everyone's time, but
Oh, I mean, that's what you're here for. If you want to.
Because I've been coding along, kind of like filling in what I didn't get, but I'm still not passing the tests.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Yeah, that's why we're here. Let me unshare. Yeah, go ahead. You should have permission to share.
Let me see here. Oh. Okay. So originally what I was missing was I didn't have this cascade, and then I was also missing these rules. But the only other thing was also this .json that I did not add, but everything else was mostly the same. But I keep getting these 500 errors.
Okay, so which one are we looking at there? Can you scroll up so we can see what or scroll up in the bottom window so we can see what the errors are there? Yeah, we can look at any of them, I guess. So if you scroll down just a little bit, it gave us what the error was. Yeah. So it's looking for a 201. It's getting a 500. Great. And it's looking for it in. Sorry, can you scroll up a little bit again? This is in the. Is this in the post?
Yeah, this is a post.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let's take a look at your code for that and see if anything stands out.
It's this one right here.
Let's see, new appearance. Get the rating, get the episode ID, get the guest ID. Cool. Add commit. Turn the new appearance. That looks right. What does anyone see something that I don't?
Could it be missing a comma on line 71 after the bracket on guest ID?
Mm,
Is that
that's an optional one, I think, but
okay?
Yeah.
doesn't hurt. Is there? No, that's there.
And this is like the same issue that I'm having for on my get request as well, because like the code, it looks like it should pass, but I keep getting 500 errors.
Let's can we take a look at the error for that get request?
Yeah,
It's probably at the top of the scroll all the way up.
that is.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Cool. 500. Yep. Date and that the guest for get.
That one is this one.
Episode dict rules appearances. Did you add the classes to the API?
I'm not sure if I did that.
Probably down at the bottom is where you would or wouldn't. Or,
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So episodes. That looks okay. So can we go? Let's go back up to the episode yet. Episode 2. That totally looks right. So let's do this. Comment out line 30. And instead of episodes there, let's just give it a like in quotes, just do like the string okay. Or episodes, yeah, perfect. That'll totally work. Let's run that test again. See, it should get episodes instead of the thing it's looking for. Let's scroll back up to where that was. It's not JSON. Yep, right. Cool. Okay, so it is calling that. Give it a well. That should be JSON. Interesting. So this makes it feel like there's something wrong with the query. Did you run the seeds on your database?
Yeah.
Okay, that all worked okay?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, my seed is
I
filled.
think I saw something.
Cool. That looks good. That looks good.
I think here, stay here, Juan. In your make response, you don't need episodes and quotes.
We just put that in there to
Yeah.
debug.
That was just to see if it would anything at all. Yeah, let's uncomment line 30 again. Get our episodes. Interesting.
Why does this keep happening to me?
Yeah. And it seems like it's consistent across all of your other classes, right? All of your other. Is it
Yeah.
just no, it's a post there. Okay. But it doesn't happen with some of them, right?
No, yeah, I don't know what I had changed. Originally, I was only passing 2 tests, but as I was coding along, I had passed 2 more, but these still haven't changed.
Interesting. Yeah, because that get is about as straightforward as that can be. Episodes equals list comprehension, episode to dict. The rules are minus appearances with a comma. Let's take out the rules part inside the parentheses there. Just leave empty parentheses. See what happens there.
Yeah, this is how I originally had it.
So it's still failing. What's it saying when it fails? So we're still getting a 500 there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't it. It feels like it's the query, but I don't have any evidence for that. And the seeds and stuff ran without any errors, right?
Yeah. I did have to change it, but I just changed the directory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Wait, can you go back to the file list again? Let me double check mine because I think there might have been. Nope, that's in the right place. It's right next to FPY, right? Yeah. Huh. What else am I missing here? This is the code that you checked in?
I had changed a little bit as we were coding along, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Let me take another look at that. Yeah, and if anyone else sees anything, holler, because that is a stumper.
Could it be something in the models?
It could be something in the models. Yeah. Take a look at the models. Okay. Oh, if it's something in the models, it could be one of the things that doesn't.
It's
yeah.
It's the trailing comma.
Yep, that's it.
Serialized rules.
Oh
yeah, good call.
Goodness.
Yep. That happened to me today.
Yep. That also happened to me.
Damn tuples.
Yeah. Any better?
I had a comma that was inside the quotates.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw me do the exact same thing through the walkthroughs. Yeah, that's just one of those little picky things. But so this is the good part. This is why we practice. Because if this was the first time, if the code challenge was the first time you saw this, you'd be lost, as would I. But we've done this a few times, and now we've explicitly seen this error. So there's a better chance that when, if and when this happens again, you'll have at least more ideas of places to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this definitely will not be happening again.
Yeah. I think that was a great catch because since the seeds worked and since the routes looked okay, it made sense to look at the models file because there are things in the models file that don't touch the database like that. So that was a great catch. That's awesome.
I spent probably 50% of the time I spent working on this was to ultimately find one of those missing commas and one of my in foreign key. I didn't capitalize the K in key.
Oh, geez.
It was like throwing all these, for me, impossible to interpret.
Yeah, I spelled appearance wrong and I had a comma inside of quotes.
It was like frustrating because I'm like, well, all the like actual the requests and the get, all that stuff was right. It was just I fat fingered or I went fast or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I'm a huge proponent of developer side tools like ESLint or anything in the browser that can help, like say, like, oh, you typed this wrong, so it's a different color, or I'm before even running it, I'm looking at the syntax of this and I notice that that thing should be a tuple or whatever. The Python tools are not as good as like some other languages, but there are some. I personally don't use them enough, but they definitely help. They get a little bit farther along helping errors like that. Nothing's gonna be perfect though, so yeah, it's just this is where like if you're a Python developer or if you're a Flask developer, this is the mistake you're going to make 100 times, and so on the 101st time you're like, no, I know exactly what it is. So yeah, that's the real benefit of doing reps, I think, because no one writes perfect code the first time, and so the majority of your job is debugging the broken shit that you wrote, and that's where the reps really come in, is being able to identify problems more quickly and take a look at them. Cool. This was super useful. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. What other questions do we have? Oh, I found that video. Let me post it. Here's your rabbit hole. if you're bored of studying. Cool. Yeah. What other questions do we have? Feeling pretty good. Right. Sweet. Well, I'll give you your 10 minutes back. Yeah, we'll just get together in 40 minutes or so for stand down. Last call. All right, cool. Thanks for hanging out. I'll post this video in the usual places, and I'll see you shortly.